In this video, we will write the code that moves the user on to the next question when they submit an answer. To do that, we will create a new method in our mainActivity.java file. This method will just do a series of tasks and return no output. Hence, the return type is void. We're going to add this method just below the onCreate method. So you got to be careful with the curly braces here. This brace ends onCreate, and this brace ends the class. To go to the next question, the first thing that we have to do is increase our mindex variable. So we'll set mindex equal to mindex plus 1. This means that the new value of mindex will be equal to the current value of mindex plus 1. In this case, the current value is 0, so the new value will be equal to 0 plus 1, namely 1. And with mindex equal to 1, we can grab the second question from the question bank array. And then we can display that question text on screen in the text view. We did this in the last video, so see if you can remember how to do this yourself. I'll give you a few seconds to pause the video before I show you the solution. And here it is. Just as before, we're grabbing the true-false object from the array at the value of mindex. And then we're calling getQuestionID on this true-false object. We're storing that result in the variable called mQuestion. And finally, we're setting the text on the mQuestion text view using mQuestion as a parameter. Now let's delete the code inside the onClick methods. It's time to update the question displayed instead. How do we do this? Simply call the updateQuestion method inside onClick. Now every time that the buttons are pressed, our index will increment, the new question text will be fetched from the question bank and then displayed on screen. Alright, so let's run the app. Gradle build running. Come on. Launching activity. Works like a dream, right? Let's pull up the Android monitor so we can see exactly what's happening. This is our last true-false question in the question bank. What do you think will happen when I press the true button now to submit an answer? Kaboom! Our app crashes. We have written a bug. Now it's time to Sherlock Holmes the cause. Go to the logcat in the Android monitor and pull it up a bit to make the window bigger. There you should see a big blob of red text. The big clue is usually in the first few lines. There we see the words array index out of bounds exception. Length equals 13, index equals 13. And we also see the exact line number in the code where our app crashed, namely update question line 75, which was called on line 58 inside the onClick method. Let's click on this blue link so it takes us exactly to where the crash happened. There, we can even show the line numbers on the side. Okay, so we've got 13 questions total in our question bank. And because programmers start counting from 0, our last question is at mQuestionBank square brackets 12. But when we press the button at the end of our quiz, we've added 1 to mindex and tried to grab a question from mQuestionBank square brackets 13. And that's why we get the out of bounds error. We've reached the end of the 13 question quiz. There is no 14th question. Essentially, we've jumped one too far in our little game of array hopscotch. So then the issue is, how do we prevent mindex from assuming a value higher than 12? And for that, we're going to use a little bit of math where we calculate the remainder of a division. The Java character for calculating the remainder is the percentage sign. This is also called the modulus. Here's how calculating the remainder works. If we were to divide the number 15 by 12, then the remainder would be 3. And if we divide the number 13 by 12, the remainder would be equal to 1. Now let's apply this logic to the code where we set the value of mindex. If we were to write mindex is equal to mindex plus 1 modulus 13, what happens? The mindex variable starts out with the value 0. So we would get 0 plus 1, and dividing 1 by the number 13 has a remainder of 1. So the new value of mindex is equal to 1. And in line 75, we're retrieving the second element in the array. So this result is exactly the same as before. Similarly, when mindex is equal to 1, and we get 1 plus 1 modulus 13, the new value of m-index will be equal to 2, because 2 divided by 13 will have a remainder of 2. However, things get very interesting when the current value of m-index is equal to 12. In this case, we would have 12 plus 1, which is equal to 13, and then the remainder of dividing 13 by 13 is 0. So then the new value of m-index is equal to 0, which throws us back right where we started, namely to the first question in the array. So in summary, this code means that m-index will never be larger than 12, and we are guaranteed that we never get this out of bounds error again. Now let's make one final modification. I don't really like having this hard-coded number 13 sitting right in our code. And the reason is that if I decide to change the number of questions in the question bank, I have to remember to change this 13 to the number of quiz questions too. This is bad. Chances are I won't remember. Chances are that there are a million other things I might have to remember, so I'll forget about this dependency. Let's make the life of our future selves easier by calculating the remainder based on the number of quiz questions in the question bank. To do this, we simply type mQuestionBank.length. And this will always give us the number of elements in the array. Now let's run the app again and check if it still crashes. Haha! Looks like we're all good. In the next video, we'll write the logic that checks the answers submitted by the user against the correct answer to the true-false question. I'll see you there. Woo!